Virginia, 1849. For months, the plantations around the James River whispered the same chilling rumor: young enslaved women were vanishing without a trace. No footprints, no witnesses, no signs of a brutal escape, no struggle, not even a direction. They were simply gone, as if the night itself swallowed them whole. Owners searched, patrols hunted. Rewards were offered, some accused secret abolitionists. Others blamed rival plantation owners. But deep in the slave quarters, only one explanation circulated: the night collector has returned. And when authorities finally discovered the truth 6 months later, it wasn't just impossible, it rewrote everything they thought they knew about fear. The first disappearance didn't raise alarms. A girl named Leah, only 17, quiet, obedient, barely noticed by the plantation owner's family. When she vanished on a cold November morning, they assumed she'd run. It was common: people ran north every chance they got. Posters went up. Hunters searched the woods. Nothing. But then came Mariah, a midwife who served 3 different plantations. She disappeared while delivering a child. The last anyone saw of her was when she stepped outside to boil water. When the mother cried out for assistance, Mariah was gone. No jacket, no tracks, no lantern light drifting through the trees. By the time the 5th woman vanished, even the owners stopped pretending this was normal. The women were taken from locked cabins, from fields under supervision, from crowded church gatherings, even from patrol-surrounded yards. Whispers began. Some said the Underground Railroad had grown bold, too bold. Some said a rival landowner was stealing women to sell south, but the enslaved community knew the patterns too well. They had heard this story before from their grandmothers, from elders, from the fading songs brought over generations. Something ancient lived in those woods, something that woke when the moonlight touched the marsh water in winter, something that always took women first. A creature, a spirit, a man. No one knew, but they had a name: the Night Collector, and he had returned. Colonel Thomas Redstone prided himself on discipline. He ran one of the largest plantations in eastern Virginia, boasting that no slave had ever successfully escaped. But when his enslaved women began vanishing, panic finally reached the ruling class. First it was Ruth, strong, stubborn, engaged to a field hand. She vanished while returning from evening prayers. Then Ada, who rarely spoke and was allowed to work inside the main house due to her calm nature. She disappeared from the pantry. With the door still locked from inside, Colonel Redstone barricaded his property. He armed patrols. He bought bloodhounds from Tennessee. He even slept with a rifle beside his bed. But dogs refused to go near the woods. Patrols kept quitting after hearing strange voices echoing through the trees, voices mimicking the missing women calling for help. And Colonel Redstone himself reported waking at dawn to hear tapping on his window, soft, rhythmic, like fingernails against glass. But when he opened the shutters, nothing was there. His daughter, Isabel, one of the few kind souls in that house, warned him something was wrong, something deeper than a criminal hiding in the woods. But Redstone dismissed her concerns. Everything has a rational explanation, he insisted. He was wrong, and by the time he accepted that truth, it was too late. Isabel Redstone had grown up surrounded by cruelty. She hated the system her father upheld. Quietly, secretly, she had begun helping enslaved women learn to read and write, lessons hidden beneath the cover of Bible study. And she noticed the pattern long before anyone else. All the women taken were between the ages of 15 and 30. All worked in fields or houses close to the old marshland. And every disappearance happened on nights when the fog rolled in thick and low, covering the ground like a blanket of smoke. Isabel felt responsible to uncover the truth. She met quietly with the wives, sisters, and daughters of the missing. Their fear was bone deep. They spoke of voices in the fog, voices that spoke in the exact tone of the women taken. And they spoke of a figure, tall, thin, wearing a mask that glowed faintly in moonlight, seen wandering the tree line before each disappearance. A figure who didn't walk like a man. A figure who floated. Isabel didn't want to believe them, but then Ruth's Samuel came to her one night, shaking, half frozen, unable to form sentences. He had seen something. Something standing outside the women's cabins. Something bending at an angle impossible for human bones. Something whispering through the walls. Isabel knew then this was no ordinary predator. Whatever was taking the women was not human. Desperate, Isabel turned to the elders, enslaved women who carried stories older than America itself. They told her of an ancient spirit once worshipped by tribes before colonists arrived, a guardian of women who died unjustly. But when Europeans massacred the tribes, the spirit lost its purpose. It twisted, it fed on grief, it began collecting souls to rebuild what it had lost. Every few decades it rose, always during fog season, always choosing young women, always taking them to the same place, the old burial ground beneath the marsh, a place drowned centuries ago, yet still active beneath the mud, a place where the dead whispered. Isabel asked how to stop it. The elders answered with a silence so heavy. She understood. It had never been stopped. Samuel, broken with grief over Ruth, took matters into his own hands. Armed with nothing but a lantern, he entered the marsh at night while others slept. He followed footprints only he could sense, a trail carved by grief, not by physical feet. Hours passed. Fog thickened. Voices surrounded him. Some cried, some laughed, some mimicked Ruth's exact tone calling his name. He refused to turn back. Then he found something in the mud, a ribbon Ruth always wore. It wasn't dirty. It wasn't weathered. It was warm, as if she had dropped it minutes ago. He pushed forward until he stepped into a clearing where lantern light revealed wooden posts arranged in a circle. On each post hung a carved wooden mask, women's faces, each eerily lifelike. And in the center of the circle was a large, sunken opening bubbling softly with warm air. A voice whispered from below, "Samuel." Not Ruth, not human. He ran. He never returned to the marsh again. Samuel, broken with grief over Ruth, took matters into his own hands. Armed with nothing but a lantern, he entered the marsh at night while others slept. He followed footprints only he could sense, a trail carved by grief, not by physical feet. Hours passed. Fog thickened. Voices surrounded him. Some cried, some laughed, some mimicked Ruth's exact tone calling his name. He refused to turn back. Then he found something in the mud, a ribbon Ruth always wore. It wasn't dirty. It wasn't weathered. It was warm, as if she had dropped it minutes ago. He pushed forward until he stepped into a clearing where lantern light revealed wooden posts arranged in a circle. On each post hung a carved wooden mask, women's faces, each eerily lifelike. And in the center of the circle was a large, sunken opening bubbling softly with warm air. A voice whispered from below, "Samuel." Not Ruth, not human. He ran. He never returned to the marsh again. 6 months after the first disappearance, the night collector came for Isabel. She woke to whispers outside her window, soft tapping, a woman's voice humming the same lullaby from weeks before. She lit a lantern. The flame flickered violently. Then she saw it, a shadow standing perfectly still at the edge of the property, the mask, glowing in the dark. The limbs long, stretched, malnourished, yet impossibly strong. It raised its arms slowly, as if inviting her. But before it could step forward, a gunshot echoed. Samuel and several enslaved men charged, firing into the darkness. The creature twisted, its body bending unnaturally as bullets passed through it like smoke. It retreated into the fog, dragging the screams of the missing women with it, voices crying out from every direction. That night, the fog did not lift. It covered the plantation for 3 days, when it finally cleared. The marsh was gone, the fissure collapsed, and the voices stopped. Weeks later, a flood washed part of the marsh deeper into the river. After the water receded, people found something buried in the mud, a chamber, hand-carved, older than any plantation. Inside were dozens of wooden masks, hundreds of bones, and carvings on the walls depicting a tall, masked figure collecting the souls of women. But the most disturbing thing of all, some of the bones were fresh. Too fresh, as if they hadn't belonged to people missing for months but hours. Rumors claimed the chamber pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Others said they heard women crying when they stepped inside. Officials sealed the site. No one was allowed near, and the disappearances stopped as suddenly as they began. Virginia moved on. Colonel Redstone died within a year, muttering 2 shadows in his room, waking the house with screams of "She's calling me, don't you hear her?" Isabel left for the north shortly after. She never returned. She never married. But she told one person once that she still heard the lullaby sometimes, especially in winter when fog touched the ground. Samuel lived long enough to see emancipation, but he never forgot the marsh. He claimed that sometimes on cold nights he could smell the warm breath of the fisher, even miles away. As for the missing women, their bodies were never found. Their names faded from records, but older generations still whisper that the night collector is not gone, only sleeping, waiting for fog, waiting for moonlight, waiting for a reason to rise again, because the truth is, Virginia didn't lose those women. They were taken, and wherever they were taken, they were not alone.